talk for the day.
Thank you. As I sat down and there was a half a dozen people here, it brought to mind a story I heard a while ago, and that was this minister goes to his church, and it's a bad, bad day. Must have been Mother's Day or something. And only one guy shows up. This old farmer shows up. And the preacher says, gee, he says, I don't know, is this appropriate? Should I go ahead with my sermon? And, well, the farmer says, if only one cow showed up at the barn, I'd feed him. And so the pastor puts on his pastor robe, and he gets all excited, and he gives this guy a 25-minute sermon, just lets him have it. And when he gets done, the guy says, yeah, he said, if it was only one cow that showed up, I wouldn't give him the whole load. So today, I had a big load to give you because I was actually going to try to fit two things in. I want to talk a little bit about Mother's Day, and then as Gary was talking about, we're talking about the mystic. And today the mystic part is I am, cultivating I am consciousness. So that's a big load to give you, and I will try not to make it 35 minutes. So it is Mother's Day, and it seems like we all have somewhere this sense within us, this need to be loved and comforted and feel safe, kind of like a security blanket. That's just a common human need for whether you're a male or a female. We all have that. Not for a little girl or a big girl, or a little boy or a big boy. We all need that lovingness that we kind of ascribe to coming from our mother. Some of us received it as children. Some of us didn't. And so it's a little interesting on Mother's Day because we have to be careful because some people, we're lauding our mothers and, saying how wonderful our mother was, this and that. And you got some people sitting in the chairs that are thinking, not so much at my house. And so we want to acknowledge that. We want to honor mothers. But I think today what I'd like to think about is thanking our mothers, whether they did everything right or not, because we wouldn't be here without them. And we're going to be talking about several things. We're going to be talking about recognizing that earthly mother. We're going to be talking about the feminine principle, that part of our higher power that is the feminine part of that higher power. And then the third part is that we connect with that higher power piece, that mother, cosmic mother within each of us. So those are the three things we're going to touch on today. So I'd like to suggest today, just as I said, no matter where we came from, no matter what kind of a home we came from, to just consider thanking our mother for the fact that we're here. We can do that, I think. We can just thank our earthly mother, whether that mother is here on this earth plane yet or has died. So I would like to ask you, if you would, just to close your eyes for a moment. Just take a deep breath, thinking about this Thanksgiving. Thank our earthly mother for having given birth to us. And also, let's just see if we can't choose to accept her for who she is or who she was. Just accept her. And this is going to be easy for some and not so easy for others. Mother Teresa wrote a poem called Do It Anyway. One of the lines is, people are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered, love them anyway. And that's what we're thinking about with regard to our mothers. Love them anyway. And let's just use this moment right now to say thank you. Now you can open your eyes and take a deep breath and just know that you are loved right here, right now, in this room. So the earthly concept is this idea of our mother, and then the spiritual concept is this feminine principle of the higher power that we worship. You know, we kind of, as we grew up, certainly I was, that higher power was a man. It was my Heavenly Father. I mean, it was, we thought of it more in a masculine way. And yet, Ernest Holmes refers to the feminine principle as the universal womb of nature because it is creative and receptive, and it unconditionally nurtures and grows whatever falls into its embrace. Isn't that a lot prettier than our Father? This is universal womb of nature is creative and receptive, and it unconditionally nurtures and grows whatever falls into its embrace. What a lovely way Ernest Holmes had described that. And this feminine nature of our higher power is the essence of unconditional love. You know, we hear that term all the time, that it's a beautiful term, unconditional love. Not if you do this, if you behave this way, if you think this, if you do all these spiritual practices, if you follow all these rules. No, unconditional love. The cosmic or divine mother is always attending to her children in whatever way serves the highest need for these children, for us. And sometimes we realize that, we're going down this kind of a rocky road and we're thinking, this isn't I don't feel very nurtured. I feel like I've got a real struggle here. And yet sometimes it behooves us to go through something to strengthen us, to move on to higher and better things. It's like the mother bird in the nest, and she's got these little birds. They don't want to get out of that nest. They want to stay in there. I hope you don't mind, David, if I mention David wrote a book called Even Eagles Need a Push. And this is the idea, somehow and that divine mother is giving us that push, loves us, and yet pushes us out of the nest. Unconditional love. It's always nice to feel safe and secure and never take any risks. I'm reading a book now called The Anxious Generation. And the idea is what problems have been brought about by these iPhones, particularly with kids, adolescents. And what happened is about the time the iPhones started being used quite a bit was the same time when we, as parents, were told, well, don't let the kids out of your sight. Don't let them play a ball game without a referee. You got to keep them apart. You got to make sure they don't fall out of a tree. Can't let them go on get the teeter-totters off the playground, the monkey bars. Oh, no, that's all dangerous. So everything was just, the pendulum just really took a swing really far, trying to protect our children. There you go. There you go. No, yeah, anything that seemed a little jump rope. What if you trip? I mean, the things that most of us did as kids, yeah, we fell down and scraped our knees, and yeah, did somebody give somebody a bloody nose once in a while to solve a problem? Yeah, that happened. But what was happening is parents were taking their kids off of the playgrounds, off of the streets. Good grief, you could. I mean, we'd go, of course, I lived on a farm, and we could run around, do whatever we pleased until it got dark, and we better be home for supper. I mean, that was the better be home for supper. That was the rule. And what was happening to these kids then, they were being taken into their house. Well, guess what they were doing? They were taking that little phone and going in their bedroom. They were happy as can be. Except what they found happened over a period of years then is these kids became more depressed, more anxious, and more suicidal than ever before. How were we protecting them that way? So it's an interesting book. The French mystic Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said, "The conclusion is always the same. Love is the most powerful energy in the world." So as long as we're giving our children love, I think we can feel like we're doing the right thing. There's a Buddhist story. The voice of yin is the feminine wisdom attributed to the Buddha. Well, somebody told this Buddha, they said, guess what? This really horrible outlaw's coming. He's coming with his sword and he's after you. He means to kill you. And so Buddha's sitting there as he does, and here comes this horrible bandit coming up with his sword, and Buddha said, well, I understand you're going to kill me, but he said, I wonder if it would be too hard for you to grant me a couple wishes. Nothing's too bad, hard for this bandit. Yeah, I can grant you a couple wishes. Well, Buddha says, you see that little tree over there? Cut off the smallest branch of that tree. Goes over there with his sword, lops it off. No problem. And Buddha said, and he says, well, what is your second wish? And Buddha said, now put it back. So the point is that love creates, it does not destroy. Isn't that a lovely little Buddhist story? Ernest Holmes says, love is the grandest healing and drawing power on earth. It is the sole impulse for creation. And that love is the love of the cosmic mother. It is the power to create life. So we talked about acknowledging our earthly mother. We talked about this cosmic mother, which is part of our higher power. And then the last point is to be able to recognize that divine mother within ourselves. Because we know that higher power that created everything and everyone also experiences life in, through, and as us. So that true unconditional love also resides within us. And we are each made in the image and likeness of the cosmic mother, whether we're male or female. No difference. So remember that cosmic mother is within each of us, male or female. I'm going to use this as a segue into the next talk about cultivating I am consciousness, because that I am consciousness is within us as well. I'm going to start with a quote from Ernest Holmes from his book called This Thing Called You, which is a lovely book. These little books that he wrote are delightful. He says, "There is that within me which knows. I am not only one with this power is actually flowing through me now. I'm not only unified with the divine presence around me, this presence is my presence. It is the presence of my real and true self. I am forever one with life. I am that I am." So where did this I am stuff come from? Well, I remember it from the story of Moses. Remember the story of Moses? Moses, first of all, he was in this basket put in the Nile, and he was saved by this Pharaoh's daughter or something. He was brought up in the Pharaoh's house, and he ended up overseeing the Hebrews, which he was one of. He didn't know it, but he was overseeing the Hebrews as they were slaves. They were building whatever they were doing, the pyramids or whatever they were building. They were slaves. And he was in charge. And then one day he saw an Egyptian beating up on one of these Hebrews. You know, you're not working hard enough, beating him up. And so he kills this Egyptian. Well, that kind of was a deal breaker. And so he had to flee because Pharaoh would have had him killed. So he took off into the desert, runs into a guy named Jethro. Jethro was just a shepherd out there with his family and his sheep, whatever they did. And so he stayed with them, married one of Jethro's daughters. You know, that was his new life. 40 years he was out there. Oh, look who's here, Mary Ellen. Welcome, come on in. So he stays out in the desert for about 40 years, and he's out there with the sheep one day in the desert, and he sees this bush that's on fire. He starts walking over to it because he thinks this is odd because the bush doesn't seem to burn up. It's just burning. He walks near it, and he hears this voice, and the voice says, "You're on holy ground. Take off your shoes." And so he took off his shoes, and he's, whoa, what's going on here? And this voice was God's voice telling him, you have to go back to Egypt, and you have to free those Hebrew slaves. That's your job. That's what you have to do now. And of course, Moses is like, I don't think so. I don't think I can do that. I don't think I'm up to it. And God, he has this little argument, and Moses says, but the people won't believe me when I say, the God of your father has sent me. They'll ask me, what is his name? And this burning bush says to him, tell the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. So that's the first place I heard this word, I am. But the idea is that it's not so mysterious as I think that Dennis Merritt Jones was saying that in the reading that Colleen did, that this isn't such a mysterious thing. This I am consciousness is simply the self-knowingness of God through us, remembering that God is within us, that I am, that God stuff is within us. That's the I am consciousness. And we can all cultivate it. Sometimes this transformation comes upon us, we're not even asking for it, and that's the story of Saul. Remember, Saul was a guy who he didn't like this new branch, this new Jewish sect, Christians. He didn't like that idea. And so he was about persecuting them. That's what he was about doing. He was going to Damascus. And I remember the little Sunday school lesson, they had these pretty pictures on the front. And I remember Saul riding on this steed going to kill the Christians. And just then this powerful light came and knocked him off his horse. As he was knocked to the ground, he lost the ability to see. He became blind. And he's like, whoa, what's going on? And the voice coming with this light said, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? And so he was given instructions to go to Damascus and to change his ways. And so he goes to Damascus. He doesn't eat or drink for 3 days. And a healer comes, heals his sight so he can see, and he was transformed. And it also was the point where that his name was changed from Saul to Paul. And of course, that was the Apostle Paul, who probably had more to do with Christianity than any of the apostles or disciples. He was a mover and a shaker because he had obviously seen the light. I mean, God got his attention in a big way. So most of us don't get stopped in our tracks and knocked off of our horse like that. But in some ways, I think we all know that still small voice speaks to us, kind of giving us, and sometimes, as I said earlier, we feel like we're walking on this rocky road, and it's difficult, and we wonder, where is God? But if we listen to that, if we go through that, become stronger, that's what it's all about. This, to get in touch with this self-knowingness or the I am consciousness, which is the way of the mystic, which is what Dennis Merritt Jones was talking about. So then how do I cultivate? How do I increase that knowingness? How do I get in touch with that? Be aware of that inner strength, that inner light, that self-knowingness of God. You know, isn't life a lot easier when you're facing something and you realize there's a power within me? I can speak my word. I can change my life by changing my thinking, listening, following that guidance. Marianne Williamson, in her book, A Return to Love, the idea is we do it by love, opening ourselves to love. That's how we increase our self-knowingness, just being open to love in all kinds of ways. Love who's ever in your life. Love those people that you find unlovable. That's how we get more value from that power within. We've all got it within. We just have to stay in touch with it. Marianne Williams says in her book, A Return to Love, love takes more than crystals and rainbows. It takes discipline and practice. It's not just a sweet sentiment from a Hallmark card. It's a radical commitment to a different way of being, a mental response to life that is completely at odds with the rest of the world. You know, most of the world doesn't think that way. And I think we as people who hear this message all the time and remember there's a power in the universe greater than I am, and I can consciously use it. How powerful is that? So anytime we come up to a challenge or an obstacle, boy, just think about that inner strength, and life gets a lot better. I'm going to walk you through a bit of a meditation, and then I'm going to close with an affirmation, and then I'll turn it over to whoever. So if you just close your eyes, just take a breath and just relax where you're at. The love of all good is within me and through me. That love goes out to meet all who come into my atmosphere. It radiates to all and is flowing through all. My love within me is perfect. My love dissolves all fears, casts out all doubts, and sets the captive free. Love, like the river of life, flows through me and refreshes me with its eternal blessings. Love cannot be afraid. It is fearless and strong. It is mighty in its works. It can accomplish all things through the inner light of that faith in the all-good, which fills my very being with a powerful presence. My love goes out to everyone in the world. I do not exclude anything, for I love all nature and everything that is. My love warms and lightens everything that it touches, and it goes out into all places. The love flowing through me is a power to all who come into contact with it, and all feel and know that I love. Love within me is complete and perfect. And now I'm just going to anchor this with an affirmation. There is that within me which knows I am love. I am not only one with this power of love is actually flowing through me now. I am not only unified with the divine presence of love around me, this presence of love is my presence. It is the presence of my real and true self. I am forever one with love. I am that I am. I am love, and so it is.